Sheriff William Tate was a hard man, feared by many in the frontier town of Red Rock. He kept the law with an iron grip, but his justice was not equal. He had a special hatred for the Apache and Comanche people who lived on the outskirts of town. To him, they were nothing more than troublemakers, thieves, and savages. Whenever there was a crime, he didn't bother looking for the real culprit. If a native was nearby, they were guilty in his eyes. Many men had suffered under his cruelty, but none more than a young Apache man named Taza. Taza had been falsely accused of stealing cattle and was beaten in the middle of town as a warning to others. Despite the townsfolk's unease, no one dared to challenge the sheriff. Justice in Red Rock was whatever William Tate decided it to be. One fateful summer, Red Rock found itself in the grips of a terrible drought. The wells ran dry and the crops withered. People began to panic. Food became scarce, and whispers of starvation spread. One day, a group of native elders rode into town, offering a solution. "Our ancestors know the land," an old Apache chief told the townsfolk. "There is a hidden spring in the canyons. We will share it, if we are treated as equals." Sheriff Tate scoffed at the offer. "We don't need charity from your kind," he spat. "Get out before I run you out myself." Ignoring the sheriff's threats, some townspeople listened. They followed the elders into the canyons and found the spring just as promised. The water saved Red Rock from disaster, but Tate's pride was wounded. He could not accept that the people he had mistreated were now the saviors of his town. One night, driven by rage, he rode out to the Apache camp with a few of his deputies. He set fire to their tents and arrested the elders on false charges. He thought he had taught them a lesson. But fate had a lesson for him. Days later, a band of outlaws stormed Red Rock. They were ruthless, raiding homes and killing anyone who stood in their way. Sheriff Tate and his men were no match for them. The town, abandoned by law and order, fell into chaos. With nowhere else to turn, the desperate townsfolk rode to the Apache camp and begged for help. Despite everything, the Apache did not turn their backs. Taza, the very man Tate had once beaten in the streets, led his warriors into battle. They fought fiercely and drove the outlaws away. When the dust settled, Sheriff Tate lay wounded in the dirt, looking up at Taza. For the first time in his life, he saw the young man not as an enemy, but as a man of honor. Taza could have left him to die. Instead, he offered Tate his hand. That night, as the Apache tended his wounds, Tate saw the truth. He had spent his life punishing the wrong people. The real villains had been men like himself, blinded by hatred and power. The next morning, when he stood again, he was no longer the same man. From that day forward, Sheriff Tate ruled Red Rock with fairness. No man, white or native, would suffer unjustly under his watch again. He had learned that justice was not about power, it was about doing what was right.